Hello. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Christian ethics, understanding what is right and what is wrong. When we think about Christian ethics, it composes our character, our choices, and our conduct. One of the things that separates Christian ethics from just the philosophy of ethics is that our worship becomes a lifestyle. How we understand who we are in relationship to God and living a life that gives God glory is foundational for our understanding of Christian ethics and how they form us in leadership. All Christian leaders are held to a higher standard because we need to practice what we preach. We need to be living examples of what Scripture teaches us to be right and wrong. The first thing we need to understand as leaders is that we are in relationships in so many ways, on so many levels. Primary is our relationship with God. Secondary is our relationship with our family, to our spouse and our children, to our parents and our siblings. Paul gives us some adequate foundations for understanding how to treat spouses and children in Ephesians. The 10 Commandments tell us to honor our mothers and our fathers. Once we honor these relationships, we can build them, they can become stronger, they can become examples for others. We are also, as leaders in the church, in relationship with our church members, our fellow leaders, and the community. And it is important that we honor all of these relationships, not using people for our gain, but pouring into people so that they too may grow into the image and likeness of God. When we think about these relationships, we need boundaries that keep them healthy. We need boundaries that remind us not to be tempted, not to engage in sexual relationships with anyone other than our spouse. We need reminders that children are to be cherished and not abused. Most of the news today is filled with Christian leaders experiencing moral failures, whether it is adultery or child abuse or pornography. The headlines are filled with Christian leaders who have made these moral transgressions. And so we need to hold each other accountable, to find ways to restore each other and to protect the vulnerable people in our congregations and in our communities from being used and abused. In addition to having an accountability and an understanding to protect these relationships, ethics covers issues. What is right? What is wrong? What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? Some of the largest ethical issues in our society today center around the beginning of life. We hold true that life begins at conception and that life needs to be cared for. And so when we think about reproductive ethics in vitro fertilization, we think about how do we care for this life from embryo to birth, and then how do we care from this life from birth to maturity to death. The other boundary that we struggle with Christian ethics is, when does life end? Because modern medicine has created apparatuses for us to survive without any true quality of life. We understand that life ends when the brain ceases functioning or the heart stops beating, and it is okay to discontinue life support. As we understand these issues, we need to continue to build each other up. And so if you have any questions, let's talk about it.